Hi there. Welcome to Cooking with TheDoerle. On today's episode, we're going to be making chicken tamales. Enjoy. Now to make this whole meal, we're going to need quite a few kitchen implements. First, we're going to need a large steamer pot. What I have here is my big enamelware canner, and it's got the insert in there. There's already water in there. We're going to stagger our tamales in there and steam them when they're all done. I also have a 5-quart stock pot with a lid. That's where we're going to cook our chicken in. As you can see, I already have a couple of leg quarters in there. We'll go ahead and put the rest of the meat in there once it's ready. Over here are our ingredients. Right here I have 1 full chicken, quartered up already. I also have in the pot a couple of leg quarters. You have garlic, 2 cloves, minced up, 1 whole onion, diced. I've got a 1/3 cup of ancho chili powder, 1 1/3 cups of lard, 3 bay leaves. I also have 4 cups of masa harina. In the spice rack, we have 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 teaspoons of dried thyme, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, 12 whole black peppercorns, 2 teaspoons of cumin. We have an additional 1.5 teaspoons of the ancho pepper. There's going to be 1 tablespoon of flour, any white general purpose flour, 1.5 tablespoons of sugar, 1/2 tablespoon of onion powder, and 1 tablespoon of vegetable oil. Some other pans that are going to be really useful for making this. You're going to need a large pot that you can soak your corn husks in. We're going to need a large pot. After the meat is cooked, we're going to drain it and shred it. You want something to strain it with, and you want a large pot for it to go into. We're going to reserve a lot of that sauce. You also want a container, preferably with a lid, that you can make your masa in there. Also, things that might be useful: a pair of tongs. You'll definitely need a wooden spoon and a slotted spoon, and 2 forks, 2 decent kitchen forks to help shred the meat up. And that should be everything you need to make this meal. We're going to start this meal with a primary ingredient. We're making chicken tamales, so you want chicken. What I'm starting with, I've got right here, I've already got 2 leg quarters skinned in my pot. Now a leg quarter, that's the thigh and the leg. And then I have a whole chicken, 2 breasts, 2 thighs, 2 legs, and 2 wings. Now we're going to take a lot of the fat off of it because there's already going to be a lot connected to it. We're just going to take the big chunks out, and it's going to make the everything go together a little bit well. The wings, we don't really have to do too much with. Maybe if you see a big chunk of fat on it, just like that right there, maybe cut that off. We'll go and just take a good little slice there, yank it off, throw the wings right in the pot there. Now I was able to get this is already split. The breast is split, and then it's into leg quarters. We'll go and split this breast the rest of the way down. And we'll pull the skin right off of it. Don't be afraid to manhandle it. We're going to be washing our hands right after this. These thigh quarters, get your finger up under the fat and just yank it off. Peel it off there, peel it off the leg like a sock. Throw those in there. Actually, just to make it cook a little bit better, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut these apart. Now what you're going to do is use your finger to find the knuckle here, put your paring knife in it, and now we're through the leg. Alright, now that we have our cutting board out of the way, we've got our chicken in the pot. Now it's time to actually cook the chicken. What you're going to want to do is take some water, cold water, and fill up your cooking pot here. You want just enough to cover the chicken and maybe a little bit more. This recipe, with as much chicken, I actually have about 6 pounds of chicken in here. Minus the fat, and eventually when we get rid of all the bones, we're going to wind up with about 4 pounds worth of chicken in there. Go and get rid of these. Now I also have the garlic. I'm going to go and tap that in there. Get it all in there. Some bay leaves. It's going to add a lot of really good flavor as it's cooking. We've got the onion. I like to go ahead and dice it just to get it as small as possible, because when we cook this down, the onion is going to wind up getting incorporated into the chicken. So you want it to be able to cook down as much as possible. The black peppercorns are great. Lots of huge flavor right in there. We've also got 2 teaspoons of thyme here. I'm using dried thyme. If you're using fresh, you can use about 4 teaspoons of it. Just pull it off the stems and chop it down and just toss it in here. It's going to go and incorporate really nicely. And we also have 2 teaspoons of oregano. Now if you can find Mexican oregano, that's way better, but if you can't, that's okay. There's going to be enough flavor in this recipe that it shouldn't matter. Now that we've got all that in here, go and turn back around. Grab our wooden spoon, which is one of the most useful things that you can have in a kitchen. They're great for stirring. They're not going to mess up any pots that have Teflon on them. And also, there's a really neat trick when you're boiling things that I'll show you right now. And we're going to bring this to a nice roiling boil. And to make sure it doesn't boil over, my spoon's a little bit short, we're going to put this right here. As it begins to boil up and foam up, it's going to hit the spoon, and for whatever magic of physics that happens, it's going to break back down. It's going to break the surface tension of the bubbles, and it's going to make sure it doesn't boil over. You can do this with any of your pots, and you can do it with any kind of utensil. Just make sure it's not going to melt or anything when you put it on top of the pot. That's how you prevent all your pots from boiling over. All right, and as you can see, the pot's bubbling nicely. Kind of move the chicken around just a little bit. I add a little bit more water. Now that it's going nice, I'm going to tap that off, and we're going to turn it down to a simmer. We want about medium-low heat. We're going to go and cover that up. Now that's just going to cook and simmer for about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, until it just kind of falls off the bone and you can start shredding it. It's going to be really fantastic when it gets done. Something important you should be doing right now, while you have the chicken go ahead and boiling and cooking, you're going to want to take your corn husks. Now when I go and buy a bag of corn husks, not all are created equal. You're going to get these real nice big ones, but you're going to also really get some small ones. You want something that's going to be at least as wide as your hand, maybe a little bit more. It makes it a lot easier when you're making small ones, especially when you're starting out. If you go, you can use the smaller ones as you get a little bit more proficient with it, but you don't necessarily want to try experimenting like that at first. I have a bowl here that we're going to go ahead and put the tamales in to soak them so they get nice and pliable, because right now they're real dry and brittle. And I've gone ahead and filled it with hot water. You just set the tamales in there, and you want to make sure they all get nice and immersed. So we're going to go and take another bowl with water in it, and just use it there, just set it in there and balance it, and that'll keep them nice and soaked. And we're just going to go ahead and let these soak until we're ready to actually fill everything. All right, because of my amazing time travel skills, about an hour and a half, 2 hours of fast, we'll come over here, we'll grab our chicken off the stove, and we'll open it up. It's been simmering nice and long. You can see right here, a bunch of grease on top, and if we go and run the spoon through it, it's just falling right off the bone. So that is perfect right there. That's exactly what we want. What we'll do now is we'll take our big glass bowl. I use a glass bowl just because the broth is going to be really hot. All the stock is going to be really hot. We're going to take this and we're going to start scooping the big chunks of everything out. We're going to debone all of this chicken here. And it's going to be pretty hot, so we'll use a couple of forks, and as it cools down, we'll go and make sure that we get all the little bits out of there. And I'm actually going to use I'm going to transfer the meat after it drains over into the bowl that we're going to make the tortilla fillet, or tortilla covering in. Because we're going to use some of this stock anyway in making the masa. So it's not going to hurt anything if the bowl is coated in it just a little bit to begin with. That is looking fantastic. The chicken is all nice and fully cooked, and it's already starting to shred apart. It smells phenomenal. Now we've got most of the big chunks of chicken out of here, so we can actually just strain the stock out into here. Just be a little bit gentle. You don't want to splash yourself. This is pretty hot still. Let's go ahead and take our wooden spoon. Just the last little bit of all that in there. Get it into the meat. And just go and put this right back onto your stove. Now what we want to do right here, while we have this stock and it's nice and hot, so we're going to go and take some and we're going to reserve it. A little bit of it we're going to put right back into the pot, and that's going to be used for cooking the seasoning into the chicken. The rest of it is going to be used for cooking or making the masa. We only want about a cup to go back into the stock pot here. So just go ahead and take a little bit here, and since we have so much chicken, I'm using a little bit more than my recipe calls for. I'm going to add just a little bit extra. We're going to want about 2.5 cups here. Let's go ahead and put it in my measuring cup, and I'm just going to scoop it out here with my measuring cup. Two and a half. That's 2 3/4 cup of it. And we're just going to set that off to the side for right now. We're going to go ahead and just dump our chicken out right here. I've got a nice butcher's block. We're going to dump the chicken out. We're going to take a fork and we're going to go ahead and shred it down. And this, with the forks, all you have to do is just take it and separate it. Just shove it in there and pull it apart. You're just looking to shred the chicken. We're not looking for nice, good bits, but look how nice and easy that just falls apart. Falls right off the bone. The cartilage separates really well. We're not going to have any problems with this. Now, you will want to go through here and pick out all the bone and pick out all the little bits. That's important. If you want, you can go ahead and cook it with boneless, skinless chicken breast, so you can debone it before you cook it. We'll make it a little bit easier. As you can see, we've got all the chicken shredded. We've got it completely deboned. I've got it back in my 5-quart Dutch oven. There's a cup of retained stock that we have in there. We're going to take this 1/3 cup of ancho peppers that we have. Just go ahead and dump that right in there. Also take our salt. We've got about 2 teaspoons here. This is kosher salt. It's really worth it not to skip on your salt. If you don't have to use a lot of it, then you're doing a lot better. You don't want too much sodium in your diet. Not being all health conscious on you, but it's just true. You need a lot more flavor from good sea salt. We have some flour. And this right here is going to act as like a binder to keep all the flavor on the chicken. Just dump that right in there. Give it a little tap. Now just give this a good couple turns here with your wooden spoon. And we're going to throw this on the oven, or on the stove. We're going to put just on a medium heat, and we're going to stir it. Alright, now I'm going to throw just a little bit more stock in there. It's about another 2/3 of a cup there. But like I'm using about that much more meat than the recipe really calls for. Okay, we're going to let that cook on medium heat. We're trying to get rid of most of the fluid there. While we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and make the masa. Take the bowl here that we put our chicken into. We're going to strain it out. Take our 4 cups of ground masa. Our 2 3/4 cup of reserved stock. We've also got that cup and half of lard. Important flavor right there. Finally, we have 2 teaspoons of sugar. I actually have a little bit more than 2 teaspoons, about 3, so that's about a tablespoon. We have cumin. I've got about a teaspoon and a half of cumin. Some vegetable oil. I've got about a teaspoon, a little bit less than a teaspoon of that ancho pepper. I just like to throw that into the masa too, just to make sure the flavor is all there. I don't want a bland, cornmeal wrapping around my meat. All right, we've got all the ingredients there. Let's go back to this pot on the stove. I can hear it bubbling away. And here we're just trying to steam all of that moisture right out of here. Now this, you just want to kind of mix it all in together. Start off slow because we've got a lot of liquid in there. Just kind of fold it into itself. Make sure you get it all mashed down in there. Make sure we incorporate all that lard and all that moisture and the good ground masa in there. Alright, we've got the masa, nice even texture, nice even color with all the seasoning. We're going to go and cover this for just a minute, so we're going to have to let the corn husks dry for a little bit. So I've got here a pan and a rack on it. We're going to take the corn husks, they've been soaking for about 2 hours actually, so they're nice and pliable. See, pull them out, you can do all kinds of stuff with them, they're not going to break or anything. You can fold them. Now we'll just go and take them out just in one big bundle. Let it dry out, put your hand on it, kind of shake them a little bit. Get as much of this excess water off as you can as possible. Moisture on your corn husks isn't going to hurt a single thing as you're putting them together, but too much, it might make it a little bit difficult, might make things get gummy and mostly just dirtier. So we're going to spread these out just a little bit. We're going to let them drip dry onto this pan for about 10 or 15 minutes. We've got everything ready to go here. We've got our corn husks, they've been draining. We've got our masa, nice uniform color, nice good consistency here, kind of like cookie dough almost. We've got our meat, it's been cooked, all that good flavors in there. We tested it and it is incredible. Now what we're going to do here to make our tamales, we've got a little assembly line we're going to set up. We're going to lay our tamales out here. This is going to be our work surface. We have the meat. We have the masa. So go and take yourself one of these corn husks, lay it out. You want about 3 tablespoons of masa in here. Let me show you what that is. 3 good heaping ones. You've got that. Now just press it down. You want to flatten it out. You want a nice thin coating of this stuff on here. You want to get it kind of close to the edge up top here. Leave a little bit of room though. You want to make sure it's even. You get the same amount all the way across. It's very important for sealing the meat in there. Now you've got it flattened down in there. Good. Get some of your meat. You want about a 3-to-1 ratio of masa to meat. Got that in there. You want to make sure it's nice and even all the way across. Now this right here, you're only going to learn how to do it by doing it, by technique. I like to fold it almost all the way. If you've ever rolled a cigarette before, it'd be helpful in learning how. And there's going to be a little bit of overlap there with the corn husk. When you turn it over here, you kind of push it up towards the top. That'll push all that masa all the way to the top. Take it, fold it over at the seam. We made ourselves a tamale. Look at that. And we're going to throw a little bit more masa in there. Once you get good at eyeing it out, you can just kind of take a glob and get the right size that you're looking for. You just work it there onto the husk. There, nice and even, nice and smooth. Grab a little bit of your meat here. Put it in. Oh, and we're going to, all these little bits of cartilage and everything, we're going to find the last of them. Right at this point, all the little bits of bone. So you don't have to worry about grandma biting into something. Or one of your friends, or if you're selling these tamales, which is something I do, you don't have to worry about one of your customers biting into them. And that is a plus. Go and fold this over. Fold it over on the side with the seam. See how that's where the seam is? Go and fold it over right there. We've got that done. As you can see, we've got a few of these tamales made right here. We've got about 19 right here. And that's a good start. We're going to finish it up, and we do have enough meat. If you can see in here, we have plenty of meat for probably another 3 or 4 dozen. And I'm going to have to make a little bit more masa. But let's go ahead and get these in the steamer pot right now. We can get these steaming while I make up the rest of them. Now it's really easy. Just take them in here, stand them upright, and you want to try to make sure that the seam side goes up against the wall or up against another tamale. You don't want to pack them in here too tight. That's really important. You want to make sure that the steam is able to get all through them. Don't be afraid to lean them up against each other. It is nice to leave a little bit of gap, a little bit of space, because as it heats up and it boils, the water is going to boil off. So you want to make sure you want to be able to add some more water to it. Let's go ahead and put the lid on it for now. I'm going to set my kitchen timer for 45 minutes. Well, here we are. After a whole day's effort, I'm about ready to take the lid off this off this steamer pot. We're going to see what these tamales look like. Oh, nice heavy steam. Looking good. They smell phenomenal. Let's go ahead and grab a hold of one here. Bring it. Let's grab a couple of them. We want to be kind of gentle. They haven't quite set up all the way yet. They should be pretty well cooked though. Don't want to grab them too hard. And let's go ahead and pull one of these open here. Look at that. Nice well-formed tamale. See, it's still pretty hot. Hasn't quite set up yet, so we're pulling away a little bit from the corn husk. But look at that. These are tamales. I'd like to thank everyone that watched this whole video till its conclusion on how to make tamales on Cooking with TheDoerle. I'd like to thank especially Captain Morgan with Unchained with the Captain for letting me use his camera and his lighting rig. Also, I have to give a nod to Duke Hess with his great camera skills. He's been over on the side taking all the close-ups and everything. It's been a long process, and this is our first video. There will be more to come. I would appreciate any requests in the comments about things you'd like to see me cook. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'd really like to go and try to make a web series about people that want to cook a lot of food for a lot of people and not spend a ton of money. So good luck with all your cooking endeavors. Bye. Oh, maybe I should eat one of these fantastic looking things. Well, great flavor, great texture. That's just what you're looking for out of a tamale.